So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Grey County Historical Society November meeting. We're quite pleased to be here at First United Church, and we're going to be learning some of the history of the area today. And we are going to forgo our regular business part of our meeting where we have minutes and the treasurer's report. There is another group into the church this evening, and this is a busy place, so we have to do our thing, have a little few minutes of social, and be on so they can get ready for the next group. So I'm Janet Dawes, I'm past president, and Frank Bassingthwaighte, our president, has moved to Lindsay. He still keeps in touch and keeps us on track, and he does come up for directors meetings and some meetings, but he can't. We will have definitely a number of openings for the board for next year, so keep that in mind if you're interested. So it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, it's Susan Schank. It's my pleasure to introduce her and let you know a few things about her. Many of you know that Susan Schank is a Historical Society board member, and she is our social media chair. She sends out the email communications to our members. What you may not know is that Susan was an Ontario Heritage Trust Award winner in 2010. She is currently a member of the Métissage Collective Old Sound, and she's chair of the Reconciliation Garden Project opening July 1st at the Owen Sounds Canada 150 celebration at Kelso Beach Park. So please join me in welcoming Susan.
My name is Standing Upright Woman, and I'm also known as Susan Schank, a member of Chippewas of Newash. I would like to say Chimagwich creator for this day and acknowledge that we stand on the traditional territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation of the Saugeen and Chippewas of Newash. We share the territory with the Great Lakes Métis. Where the First United Church stands was once part of the Newash mission. Today, I hope to bring some insight into the history of the Newash mission and some of the indigenous people who lived here. What I'm about to present is my interpretation, and I do not speak for the Aboriginal people who live on Saugeen Ojibwe territory or other Aboriginal groups. I used many sources in my research and was guided along by the ancestors and the ones who did the research before me. Chimagwich to all. I'm going to be doing a presentation of photos and transcripts of documents, newspaper articles, oral histories, and segments from many books. Later in the presentation, I have invited Larry Jensen, local musician, one of the 2016-17 Poets Laureate, and a member of the Métissage Collective, to present his song, Burial Ground, a song written about the 1992 8-day standoff at 2245 and 2255 6th Avenue West, Owen Sound, historically known as lots 97 and 99 Amelia Street, in the town plot of Brook, which later became the site of a marl quarry which manufactured bricks. So let's begin. Historically, the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation occupied about 2 million acres of the richest land in Upper Canada before the arrival of the British, as far as the town of Arthur, extending west to Lake Huron and north to Georgian Bay. The Wendat Nation had made the area their home, as did the Batoon or Tobacco people, who are Iroquois-speaking people. People from many nations moved into the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation territory after the War of 1812 between the United States and Great Britain. They came from Ohio, the state of New York, Michigan, and Wisconsin, as a result of the American Indian removal policies of 1830, which forced Native Americans west of the Mississippi River and extinguished their land claims. You will find some of their names included in the Worcester Roll of 1907. Some on their way to Manitoulin Island, the traditional homeland of the Wadawa. Some moved from Coldwater on the Narrows. Others came from Toronto and the Niagara regions after newcomers encroached on their territories. Just a side note, my ancestors, the Sonagos, Suttons, and Kakakis, came from the Mississaugas of the Credit on invitation from the chiefs of the Newash village in 1845 because of encroachment of new settlers to their reserve near Port Credit. My ancestors settled on land in Concession 3, and my third great-grandfather, William Sutton, was a lay preacher in the 1880s and 90s at the church, which stood close to this church. Now I'm going to talk about the tract agreements. In 1836, the Saugeen Ojibwe signed Treaty Number 45.5, which surrendered 1.5 million acres for the use of Euro settlers. The need for more land, however, did not diminish, and in 1847 it was necessary for Queen Victoria to issue a royal declaration. The declaration confirmed that the land of the Saugeen Ojibwe as being the Saltine Peninsula, now which is called the Bruce Peninsula. In 1851, Canada passed the Act for the Protection of Indians in Upper Canada from imposition and the property occupied or enjoyed by them from trespass and injury. Also in 1851, the Government of Canada and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation signed the Half-Mile Strip Treaty. An area of over 4,000 acres was surrendered for a road to join Owen Sound in Southampton and any islands within 7 miles of the coast. With Treaty Number 72 in 1854, the Saugeen Ojibwe ceded a little less than 500,000 acres of the Saugeen Peninsula. In exchange, the Saugeen Ojibwe were to receive proceeds from all lands sold to be held in trust and better protection of the remaining reserves from encroachment. The land-based remaining consists of Chiefs Point, Saugeen Reserve, Owen Sound, Colpoise Bay Reserve, Cape Croker Indian Reserve number 27, the Fishing Islands in Lake Huron, Cape Herd Islands, and 3 islands at the entrance to Colpoise Bay. In 1857, the 10,000-acre Newash Reserve on the west side of Owen Sound Bay was surrendered. The residents were moved to Cape Croker, but many were reluctant. James Newash, the reserve was named after James Newash. The text in the treaty stated that 1 acre be reserved and set apart for the burying ground. A portion of this acre was located at lot 97 and 99 Millie Street in the town plot of Brook. So I'm going to ask Larry Jensen to come up, and he is going to sing a song called Burial Grounds about the 1992 8-day standoff.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
We'll do that. We have some We have some sound reinforcement technology here today. I'm not so sure we actually need it.
Okay.
You think? I don't
Up
know.
to you.
I think we can.
Okay. Is this out?
I'll still need this thing because auxiliary brain. Words there. So as Susan stated, I'm part of Baby Saw's collective, which we are like poets, pickers, songwriters, and storytellers. And this story was something that I thought should be told. The only reason I really know anything more about this than what most people of Owen Sound knew back then, 92?
Yeah.
92. And we were just all reading it in the newspaper at that time. I think the newspaper sort of was a little bit slanted. It was a little bit like, okay, these folks are going to be, you know, their homes are going to be taken away from them. What they didn't realize that that piece of land right there was part of a treaty. And First Nations never surrendered that piece of land. And it was supposed to be kept because it's burial ground. And then we started hearing all these creepy stories about people actually taking souvenirs. You know, because these houses were built there and they dug foundations down into the burial ground, and some things were revealed, you know. So, but most people didn't know much about that. And my wife, Catherine, worked for First Nations then, and she worked on the lands claim. And she knew a lot about what went on at that particular time. So I got to hear that. And anyway, so most recently, it wasn't something I wrote back then, but since I became part of this storytelling group, I thought it was important to write this song, so we'll give it a go. To understand how First Nations people view burial grounds. To them, their ancestors are alive and they come and sit with them when they drum and sing. They did not bury them in coffins, so they became inseparable from the soil. They are literally and spiritually part of the earth that is so part of them. That's one reason why they have such a strong feeling for the land and their traditional territories. Their ancestors are everywhere. It's a sacrilege to disturb even the soil of a burial ground. It's an outrage to disturb in any way actual remains. Deeds of lies, deeds of deception, aim for blood, blood for gold. The diggers dig and uncover the remains, long so cold. The diggers dig and uncover the remains, long so cold. The remains, long so cold. The remains, long so cold. That the narrative that I did in the middle was written by David McLaren, who wrote a paper on the whole situation. So if you want to look that up on the net sometime, it's quite interesting. David McLaren, of course, our NDP guy.
Yeah, God.
Okay. Thanks very much for listening. Nice to be here.
So on just another side note, there's also another forgotten Indian graveyard at Mary Miller Park. If you can notice over in this slide, it's just an exploded view. It says J. Cole Woodyard, Old Indian Cemetery, Mary Miller Park. So that was used, the land there was used to make bricks. So, and the houses from Amelia Street were removed and floated up to Cape Croker, renovated, and now used as band offices. 4 years later, in 1861, the Colpoys Bay Reserve of 6,000 acres was surrendered, and although a few did move to Cape Croker, the majority moved to Christian Island and some to Saugeen. The fishing islands and Cape Herd Islands of Lake Huron, as well as Griffith, Hay, and White Cloud Island on Georgian Bay, were also surrendered from 1885 to 1899. And I don't know why I'm having that slide. It's supposed to be a slide on White Cloud Islands. So I'm just going to escape here for a minute. There it is. There it is. So that is White Cloud Island. And in the north, you'll see a little triangle, and that is reserved for Cape Croker.
Where is it, sort of, generally?
It's in this north corner, that little triangle piece there of White Cloud Island.
That's a burial ground?
Oh, we're in the entrance of Colpoys Bay.
Oh, that's where it is.
Yes. So, yeah. Okay. So then, in 1968, approximately 90 fishing islands in Lake Huron were returned to the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. Another change on January 21st, 1992, was Cape Croker's place name was changed to Newash, which means point of land. The Saugeen Ojibwe Traditional Territory covers the watershed bounded by the Maitland River and the Nottawasaga River east of Collingwood. Although the traditional territories cover some 2 million acres of what is now some of the best farmland in Ontario and a good piece of the Niagara Escarpment biosphere. The area includes all of Bruce Peninsula, all of Grey and Bruce counties, and parts of Huron, Dufferin, Wellington, and Simcoe counties. Saugeen Ojibwe Nation's traditional territory also includes the land under the waters of Lake Huron to the international boundary and the land under the waters of Georgian Bay to the midpoint. Oral and documentary evidence indicates that the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation had exclusive use of these waters, primarily to engage in fishing and activities central to the economy and the culture. The ancestors of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation have inhabited these territories and fished the waters around them for thousands of years. A 1788 map by Luther Mann shows a village at present-day Brook. Now, this was a quick overview of the treaties affecting the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. So now I'm going to talk about the history of the Newash village in 1842. Following the Indian Treaty of 1836, a reserve along the western shore of Owen Sound was set aside for the band headed by Chief Newash. In 1842, the Indian village of Newash, established here previous to the founding of Sydenham, now Owen Sound, was rebuilt by the government. It would contain 14 log homes, a school, and a barn. The Newash village was a Wesleyan Methodist mission. And in this photo you can see a brick church and still a house and a school still there in that photo. Here's the school that was at 3rd Avenue West and 24th Street. Wesleyan Methodist missionaries ministered to the Indians, and in 1845 a frame chapel was completed. In 1857, the reserve containing some 11,000 acres was ceded to the government, and most of the Indians moved to Cape Coker. Chief James Newash was a Dawa Deer Clan who served at the right hand of Tecumseh during the War of 1812 at the Battle of Morgantown in Ohio. The Odawa, Potawatomi, and the Ojibwe were allied. Historically, were the nations of the Three Fires, or the Council of the Three Fires. The Newash name signifies a tree bending in the wind but not yielding. Chief James Newash was living near Owen Sound in early 1840 when Charles Rankin, the land surveyor, and other colonials began moving into the area. John Telfer, the government land agent, was put in charge of the building some dwellings and a school building at the mission, and the missionaries such as Catherine and William Sutton, David Sawyer from the Mississaugas of the Credit Mission, Conrad Van Dusen, and George McDougall tried to assist the Newash band. Chief Newash invited David Sawyer to join them at the mission in Brook. Chief Newash also had welcomed the surveyor Charles Rankin, who had said that the chief had aided him with the most accurate information of the courses of the rivers and streams of the area to the south. Rankin referred to Newash in his survey notes in 1840 to 1850 as being a helpful, intelligent, a hereditary chief, third of his name. October 1840, when the land agent John Telfer was delayed by poor winds reportedly directed by Chief Newash toward Rankin Shelter. Only one or two local Ojibwe could understand English at the time. Telfer had arrived in a small sailboat accompanied with a few men. When Telfer arrived, he blew an animal horn at a clearing. Rankin came out of the bush to greet him. In 1849, Chief Newash reportedly swam his horse from the Indian village of Newash over to the East Shore Wharf, then called Collins Wharf, later Boyd's Wharf, with around 30 other Newash people in canoes in order to greet the newcomers who had just arrived by the steamer Gore. This is mentioned in John Miller's memoirs. An 1851 document in the 1867 publication, The Indian Chief, shows that James Newash was a leader as his name is put down by the missionaries along with other principal men of the band. Chief Newash is mentioned in a letter David Sawyer wrote on his behalf that his family had sickness lately and that he needed his half-yearly allowance money. The letter was dated July 28, 1845, Big Bay at Owen Sound. In 1864, Nanabiwikwa was sending some money she received from the Quakers to the Cape Croker people. Old James Newash remained most grateful and said in 1864, "If Nanabiwikwa dies, there is not another left in the world to care for us." In later years, Chief Newash was crippled and carried 2 sticks as canes and was blind. On March 20th, 1852, the Owen Sound Comet mentioned that Newash had been blind for about 15 or 20 years, but his sight had returned last summer and he traversed the forest this winter, as was his wont in younger days, and that he was about 80 years old. Before Chief Newash moved to the Newash mission, the Newash band lived several years in Cape Croker. Chief Newash predicted that someday they would return to the Cape Croker area. There is a memorial cairn for James Newash at Anishinaabek, which was put into place in 1950. The family surname was recorded by surveyors and missionaries as Newash, and is seen that way on maps and documents. It is now referred to the spelling of Newash. So I'm going to talk about other notable people at the Newash village. Kegadons originally came from Ohio. Kegadon's chief of the band and his wife lived in the Ohio Valley when the War of 1812 broke out. Lawrence A. Keshik, a great-grandson of Kegadon's, tells the story of Kegadon's influence in the War of 1812. When the Battle of the War began, Kegadon's eldest brothers gathered together all available warriors to fight against the Americans to defend Aboriginal lands and the Aboriginal way of life. Kegadon's, being younger than his brothers, was commissioned by his brothers to withdraw from the scene of the hostilities with the women, children, and incapacitated men. Kegadon's people made their way up the shores of Lake Huron and finally settled near Chief's Point at the mouth of the Sago River. In the fall of 1831, Kegadon's disappears. Later that year, near the new settlement of Godbridge, the Indians found his lifeless body bruised and mangled in such a way as to make it evident that he had been murdered. When Kegadon's was murdered, his widow married Sakian. Sakian's origin is not known, but he was present when Kegadon's group resettled to Newash from Chief's Point. Sakian eventually moved with the band from Newash to Cape Croker. An incident from the life of Sakian illustrates the First Nations people using traditional methods to exercise leadership and self-government in their society. The incident Sakian was involved in is as followed. A story told by former Chief Charles Kegudance Jones that his great-grandfather Kegudance, accompanied by a few members of the tribe, were in an early spring sugar camp, which was shut off from their home across the bay, still icebound. He made a small cedar paddle on which he drew the sun with charcoal. He laid the paddle on a rock and, lifting his voice, prayed to the Great Spirit. "Oh, grant me the fulfillment of my dreams to save my people." Later, he aroused the camp to set out for home, and lo, far across the bay, straight as an arrow, the ice cracked, leaving a path of open water. The chief ordered his Indians to paddle their canoes with all their might, for the way would be only open for an hour. For 7 miles, the birch bark canoes literally flew across. The first baby born at Cape Croker Reserve was Charles Kegudance Jones, a tiny 2.5-pound baby boy. In order to survive the winter's cold, this wee infant was wrapped in skins and mossed and rubbed with oil. His father, Peter Kegudance Jones, who was a close relative to Tecumseh, who so bravely fought in the War of 1812, was one of the chiefs who signed the Jones Treaty. His mother, Margaret McLeod, was the daughter of a factor of Hudson Bay at Fort McLeod. Reverend Conrad Van Dusen was a Wesleyan Methodist who came to the Newash mission in the late 1830s and encouraged most of the Ojibwe to become Christians. Unfortunately, dissension was present in the community and tensions increased because other First Nations, new from other areas of Upper Canada, were being added to the shrinking amount of territories. In 1840, preparations were first made for the settlement of the town of Sydenham. A few Ojibways and Potawatomis had settled beside Newash village. In October 1842, a number of workmen who had been sent by the government to put up houses for the Newash band arrived in Sydenham. 6 logs homes were put up that fall. Other log and frames were put up afterwards. There were 16 in all. The government also had 100 or 150 acres cleared for them and made them a present of several yoke of oxen and cows. Some of these the Indians killed for beef when the winter came. In 1855, Charles Keeship reported that the Indian population of Newash was 105. Early in 1857, the Indians surrendered Newash and the reserve, which now constitutes the township of Sarawak, on condition of receiving certain annuities to be moved to Cape Croker. When the village plot was laid out into lots in the summer of 1857, it was renamed Brook. The lots were sold by auction in September of 1857 at Owen Sound at 4 times their value. Today, the Saugeen First Nation reserves now include 4 land reserves and portions of Lake Huron. The land reserves are Chiefs Point, number 28, Saugeen, number 29, Neoshinaming, number 27, Saugeen Hunting Grounds, number 60A, and Saugeen and Cape Croker Fishing Islands. The Duluth Declaration of 1995 affirms Saugeen First Nations jurisdiction over the waters around the Saugeen Bruce Peninsula. So I have some other slides here as well. This map is showing the Saltine Territory and the Saltine Peninsula. And this is a photo of the Saugeen Lighthouse and the light from the Saugeen Lighthouse. And it is now at the Bruce County Museum. This is Chief Wallace, the rabbit, painted by Paul Kane when he was in Saltine Territory in 1845. And this slide is called Cape Croker Boys, that enlisted in the Army in 1916. So that concludes my presentation. So, Newash.
Do we have any questions we want to ask Susan? I'm interested, you're a relative of?
Yes, I'm the Nanabiwikwa is my third great grandmother,
Okay.
yeah, who lived out where Cobble Beach is now.
Okay.
She is buried there,
Yeah, okay.
but not where the memorial is.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
We had a lovely presentation at Cobble Beach a few years ago, and they talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
very-
yeah.
Yes, yes.
I'm just curious to know what's actually becoming of the burial ground now on, is it Amelia Street that you mentioned, Susan? It's close to this church, is that correct?
It's on 6th Street, so it's fairly close. There is a cairn there, but there's no plaque. The land is in trust with Indigenous Northern Affairs. So the text has to be written for the plaque yet. And I don't know why it hasn't, but someone asked me that the other day, where's the text to the plaque? But, soon, I hope. Yes, Linda?
Is it still considered a burial ground, as in, does it continue to be used as a burial ground?
No. There were bones found in the basement, and those bones were repatriated up to Cape Croker before the houses were floated to Cape Croker, and now they're used as part of the band office. There might be more bones there, I'm not sure. They just dug up where the houses were because it was, half acre, so.
Can I ask the maps you're using, were they part of Charles Rankin survey?
Some of them were. I collected those maps from Ontario Archives, National Archives.
Right, okay.
They're all from different places. But I do have Charles Rankin field notes for Newash, the village of Newash. Yeah, but they're, I don't have them transcribed or anything.
No.
They are hard to read. I'm not a surveyor, but some of the notations are easy enough to read, so. Yes?
The unopened road allowances on the Bruce Peninsula and the organized townships, were they included in any of the treaties, or what is the status of them now?
The road allowances that weren't sold?
The unopened road
Yes,
allowances?
they're in the, a land claim of 1854. There is a land claim against those unused portions that weren't sold. They were to be used as roads or other things, and the money was to be held in trust for the Newash. But those lands weren't sold, so there is a claim. I don't know what will happen, if the Indigenous Northern Affairs will deal with that. It's been,
Now, best of your knowledge, that has not been settled.
no, no. To my best of my knowledge. Don't know anything. Yes?
Many years ago, over 60, I was hired as a secretary to take notes at a meeting that Dr. McKinnon Phillips, who was MP at that time, held with the fishermen to discuss the types of nets that the fishermen out of Owen Sound were using on their fish boats, and also the people around Cape Croker. And I can't remember anything about it, except I didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh, well, the fish nets, there's several different holes, and it depends on which kind of fish you're fishing. The little ones can go out, I guess. But of course now, the Saltine Ojibwe Nation has the licenses for the commercial fishing. So I don't know. Don't know much about fishing.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. So, yes.
So you talked a lot about ceding and surrendering land, so I'm just curious if you could comment why the Newash call themselves an unceded First Nation.
Because they have never had a treaty. They were there always. It was never, like even when they went to Cape Croker, there was already a settlement before 1812. They were already there, so that's why they call it unceded. So, is that it?
Well, on behalf of the group, Susan, thank you very much for your presentation, and to Larry Jensen for his great little performance and your writing.
Thank you, Susan. Just a couple quick announcements. I did bring some forms. We offer a Heritage Certificate of Recognition every year, and February 1st, 2017 will come faster than we think. And I did bring a few nomination forms if you think that there's somebody that you want to nominate. They are available on the website, but in case somebody doesn't have access to the internet or whatever, I did printed out a few. I can take them to the library. I do have brochures of upcoming programs. We don't meet again until February, and we're going to be in Markdale. February 15th, we're in Markdale for a potluck at noon hour, and then 1:30 is our official meeting. The Chapmans are, their ice cream is the theme of the afternoon, and so we're going to learn all about their business and how they are contributing to the community. And so that'll be at Cook's Presbyterian Church. So take a brochure if you haven't had one, or if you lost yours, or give it to somebody else. Just a heads up, our annual dinner is still in the planning, but what it's going to be, it's going to be in Meaford on May 17th, and the plan is that there will be dinner, and it'll be up in the upstairs area, and so we can limited number, about 100 or so. Then after that, there will be a show in the Meaford Hall, which will have a separate ticket. But it's going to be a variety show, and we're inviting some of the different theater groups in the area to provide some short pieces. We're waiting for a word on our grants to know if we can afford all this, because Meaford Hall, we have to also book it for not just the day, but also for all the rehearsals, etc. So we'll be watching for more information. We'll get the word out as soon as we know, but things are getting into place for that. I don't think there's any other announcements, so thank you all for coming. There are refreshments. Did you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to give a piece of information. About in 1996, the College of Tobias, Kishik Tobias, had written an illustrated history of the Chippewas of Newash, and it's a graphic novel. And so that's sort of recently been resurfaced, and the Canadian Federation of University Women have entered into a partnership with the Madoki Seniors Group to take that graphic novel and turn it into a play. And so that's in process now, and it's very it's very similar to what Susan has, the story that Susan has given us here today. So keep an eye out for
We'll
that.
have to
in the
watch for
future.
that. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. So please free to visit and enjoy some refreshments before you leave today, and we'll hope to see many of you in February. Thank you. And before I do, Christmas train. I must do my bit here. This Saturday, this Sunday, from 10 to 4, on the other side of the...
No, it's on this side.
Oh, this side, I mixed up. On this side of the river, I don't want to send you to the CP stations because there'll be nobody there. This side of the river, we have, the train has got some great decorations and things to buy. So from 10 to 4, at the Waterfront Heritage Center, the old CN rail station. So I didn't want to, the
She's on the board, she's allowed to do that conversation.
So thank you. And thank you for coming, and we're glad to see so many visitors as well.